What if the most legendary figures in history, the warriors, queens, and emperors we know only from faded paintings and ancient myths, could step back into the present day? In this video, we're using cutting-edge AI to breathe life into 5 iconic leaders: Attila the Hun, Queen Nefertari, Atahualpa, King Leonidas, and Mehmed the Conqueror. You'll see them not as distant legends, but as real people, with faces full of ambition, courage, tragedy, and wisdom. Stay with us to experience history like you've never seen it before, because these faces tell stories no textbook ever could. Attila the Hun. Our journey begins with Attila the Hun, the fearsome scourge of God. The old images we have of Attila are faded medieval illustrations, showing him as a monstrous figure, an almost supernatural being meant to terrify more than to portray accurately. Attila ruled over the Huns during the 5th century, launching devastating campaigns across Europe and shaking the very foundations of both the Eastern and Western Roman empires. Yet while history often paints him as a brutal warrior, he was also a shrewd leader, skilled in negotiation as much as he was in war. Through the lens of artificial intelligence, Attila emerges not as a shadowy nightmare, but as a living, breathing man. His sharp eyes, rugged features, and battle-worn face reflect a life spent on the edge of survival, a commander who knew that fear could be as powerful a weapon as any sword. His modern recreation brings him down from the realm of legend and places him firmly in the world of reality, where charisma and cunning were just as important as brute strength. Queen Nefertari. Next, we step into the sun-drenched world of Queen Nefertari, one of the most celebrated queens of ancient Egypt. Nefertari was the great royal wife of Pharaoh Ramses II, famed not just for her beauty but for her intelligence, diplomacy, and political influence. Her tomb in the Valley of the Queens, rich in color and intricate detail even after more than 3,000 years, is often called the Sistine Chapel of ancient Egypt. It speaks volumes about her significance and the love Ramses bore for her. Artificial intelligence allows us to see Nefertari not merely as a distant symbol of elegance, but as a real woman. In her modern recreation, we find the grace, regality, and inner strength captured in soft yet commanding eyes, a vivid reminder of a queen whose power extended far beyond her beauty. Here stands a woman who moved kingdoms and gods alike. Her presence is vital now as it was then. Atahualpa. We now turn to Atahualpa, the last sovereign emperor of the Inca Empire. The surviving images of him come mainly from Spanish chroniclers. Hurried sketches rather than formal portraits, often created by those who witnessed only the tragic final chapters of his life. They show him bound, defeated, and facing execution at the hands of conquerors. Atahualpa met Francisco Pizarro in the year 1532 at a fateful meeting that would change the course of history in the Americas. Despite offering what may have been the richest ransom in human history, a room filled to the brim with gold and silver, Atahualpa was executed. His death marked the beginning of the end for the mighty Inca civilization, a fall that came with astonishing speed and devastation. Through artificial intelligence, Atahualpa rises again, not as a captive awaiting his fate, but as a proud emperor. His proud gaze, adorned with the rich jewelry and ceremonial fabrics of his people, captures the dignity and resilience of a ruler who, even in the face of treachery, never lost his nobility. This recreation restores his humanity, reminding us that history's victims were once living souls who dreamed, ruled, and fought. King Leonidas. From the Andes, we journey back across oceans and centuries to ancient Greece, where we meet King Leonidas of Sparta. The surviving depictions of Leonidas, found on weathered vases and stone reliefs, show him stylized as the ideal Greek warrior, strong, upright, and heroic. Yet these images often lack the personal details that would reveal the man behind the myth. Leonidas stood against the massive Persian army at the Battle of Thermopylae, leading a small band of Spartans and allies in one of the most famous last stands in history. Facing overwhelming odds, Leonidas chose to fight, knowing full well that death was inevitable. His sacrifice became a timeless symbol of courage, endurance, and the fierce defense of freedom. Today, artificial intelligence offers us a glimpse of Leonidas as he might have truly appeared. His face is carved with the experience of a life lived in the brutal world of ancient warfare. His eyes, sharp and steady, hold the weight of a king who bore the heavy burden of his people's hopes. Here is Leonidas not as a myth, but as a man who knew he would die and stood tall anyway, a living testament to bravery and honor. Mehmed the Conqueror. Finally, we come to Mehmed the Conqueror, the young sultan who changed the world forever. Old Ottoman miniature paintings present Mehmed in elaborate robes and regal poses, but like so many medieval works, they were more symbolic than personal, giving us little sense of the man behind the empire. In the year 1453, Mehmed, at just 21 years old, captured Constantinople, ending the 1,000-year reign of the Byzantine Empire. His victory heralded the rise of the Ottoman Empire, which would dominate much of southeastern Europe, Western Asia, and northern Africa for centuries. Mehmed was a visionary strategist and a tireless leader whose ambitions reshaped entire continents. Through the magic of artificial intelligence, Mehmed returns as a vibrant, determined young man. His intense gaze, framed by a richly decorated turban and heavy cloak, speaks of intelligence, ambition, and the relentless energy that drove him to greatness. Not merely a conqueror, Mehmed was a dreamer, a planner, and a builder of civilizations, a leader who saw the future not as something to inherit, but as something to create. George Washington. An old oil-painted portrait of George Washington shows a man with powdered white hair, a stern expression, and a high-collared military coat. His serious gaze and formal posture reflect the weight of responsibility he carried as the leader of a young nation. The brushstrokes are deliberate, giving him a heroic yet approachable aura. George Washington, born in 1732, is often called the father of his country. He led the Continental Army to victory during the American Revolutionary War and later became the first president of the United States. His leadership established many traditions that still shape the presidency today. Washington was known for his integrity, resilience, and commitment to Republican values at a time when monarchies ruled much of the world. His refusal to cling to power after 2 terms set a precedent for democratic governance. Though most images depict him as stoic and dignified, he was also a man of humility and strategic brilliance. Lisa Gherardini. The world's most famous painting, the Mona Lisa, captures Lisa Gherardini's soft, enigmatic smile. Painted by Leonardo da Vinci, the artwork shows a woman seated against a dreamlike landscape, wearing a modest dark dress with a delicate veil. Her gaze follows the viewer, creating a sense of timeless connection. Lisa Gherardini, born in 1479, was an Italian noblewoman believed to be the subject of Leonardo's masterpiece. She lived a relatively quiet life, marrying a wealthy merchant named Francesco del Giocondo. The Mona Lisa's fame stems not just from her identity, but from Da Vinci's revolutionary techniques, like sfumato, that blurred lines and created lifelike softness. The painting survived centuries of wars, theft, and countless reinterpretations, becoming a global symbol of art and mystery. Lisa herself remained largely a background figure in history, but through the Mona Lisa, her presence endures. Cyrus the Great. Ancient stone reliefs show a regal figure with a long, curled beard, a tall, fluted headdress, and elaborate robes. Though no confirmed portrait of Cyrus the Great exists, these carvings and coins depict him as a powerful and noble leader, commanding respect across vast lands. Cyrus the Great, born around 599 BCE, founded the Achaemenid Empire, which became the largest the world had seen at that time. Revered for his enlightened rule, Cyrus issued the Cyrus Cylinder, often considered the first declaration of human rights. He respected the customs and religions of the lands he conquered, a revolutionary concept for rulers of his era. His leadership model influenced civilizations for centuries, including the development of democratic ideals in Greece. Cyrus's ability to unite diverse peoples and cultures under a single empire remains a marvel of ancient governance. Septimia Zenobia. Ancient busts of Zenobia portray a regal woman with intricate braided hair, a delicate yet strong face, and finely detailed clothing. The sculptures emphasize her poise and dignity. characteristics that defined her short but brilliant reign. Septimia Zenobia, queen of the Palmyrene Empire in the 3rd century, was a warrior and a strategist. After the death of her husband, she expanded her territory across much of the eastern Roman provinces, including Egypt. Zenobia declared independence from Rome and styled herself Augusta, challenging one of the most powerful empires in history. Her intellect, charisma, and ambition earned her admiration across cultures. Though eventually captured by Emperor Aurelian, legends say she lived out her days in Rome with dignity. Zenobia remains a symbol of female strength, leadership, and resilience against overwhelming odds. Ragnar Lothbrok. Old Norse sagas and medieval manuscripts describe Ragnar Lothbrok as a legendary Viking warrior, often depicted in rough sketches, wearing fur cloaks with wild hair and a fierce expression. He is surrounded by images of longships and ravens, symbols of war and fate. Ragnar Lothbrok, who may have lived during the 9th century, is a semi-legendary figure whose life blurs myth and reality. He was a fearsome raider and king, leading daring expeditions across France and England. Tales of Ragnar describe his cunning strategies, immense bravery, and tragic death in a pit of snakes at the hands of King Aella of Northumbria. Whether he was one man or a composite of several Viking leaders, Ragnar's legend inspired generations of Norse warriors and left a lasting mark on medieval European history. His saga reflects the Viking spirit, fierce, adventurous, and deeply tied to destiny. History often reduces its greatest figures to dusty names and faded myths, robbed of the vivid humanity that once made them remarkable. But by blending art, research, and technology, we can bridge the centuries and rediscover the living, breathing people behind the legends. From Attila's fierce determination to Nefertari's graceful wisdom, from Atahualpa's tragic nobility to Leonidas's unbreakable courage and Mehmed's relentless ambition, their stories endure, not just in books and ruins, but now in faces we can almost reach out and touch. They remind us that history is not just about events, it is about people, real people, who once walked the earth, dreamed bold dreams, and dared to change the world.